Good morning, Marci.
Good morning, Sam. It's so nice to see you.
Oh my gosh, I've been looking forward to this conversation because it's been more than a couple weeks since we had our last coach to coach conversation, and so much has happened.
I'm sure you have a lot to tell me about taking your daughter to college, and I'm excited to hear that. And I have something to talk to you about too. But if you want to start this morning with coach to coach and what's been happening with you, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And I hope that this subject is relevant because I think I've learned so much through it. It's so interesting. So, just for background, you already know this, but for anyone watching, so I have a daughter. She just went out of state to school, my very first one that I have ever launched into college. And it was during a really complicated time with COVID, and all summer long thinking she wasn't going to go because the school was pretty clear that they were not going to open the campus to freshmen. And then at the very last minute, they decided that they were going to allow freshmen to come on campus, and that they needed to move in 10 days early. She happens to be going to school in California near where there's been a lot of wildfires. So it was just this really, I don't know, it was almost like this vortex I got sucked into for like 3 weeks in this, like trying to figure out, if she was going, then, get her there early and settled in the midst of the wildfires and the pandemic. And so she's there, she's happy. And I would say I've been reflecting a lot. That's what I think we do as coaches, right? We reflect a lot and try to extract our own learnings from so many life experiences. And I love this time with you because you and I get to share our own life experiences, which is really special to me. So I would say that the things that I've been reflecting on, one, which we know this is true, right? But we don't have control over so many things, right? If there ever was a year for that really to sink in, this pandemic. And then also, ever since she was little, I used to actually say, oh my gosh, the day that she leaves to go to school, I am going to be physically ill. Like, I'm just going to be so sad. I'm going to be so upset. When I don't talk to her every day, it's going to hurt so much. And her and I are really close. And, I've really surprised myself. So I think some of the learnings for me is one, not having control and really taking my own advice that I give to so many other people that I'm coaching and focusing on what I can control, which is how I feel about the situation, right? So like, I actually feel so grateful that she got to go. I feel really proud of her. And I went through this moment where I expected to feel this pain, and I do miss her very much. But I actually have the mindset of feeling really proud of my husband and I. Like, we did it. She is there. We raised a person who now is, semi independent. And she's doing a great job. And I am not like I thought I was going to be. Like, I thought I would be checking her location, all the time, and being really anxious about safety and her experiences. And I just haven't felt that. I feel really, I don't know if it was the time, having that extra time with her during COVID. So we were together a lot. But I really felt like she's ready, and I feel proud of the work that we did, and it was not perfect. But I also feel like, you know, it's sort of time to refocus the house. So much of our energy in this summer and her senior year and getting her off to school went into her and that experience. And I have a son too, that needs my attention and my time, and I need my own attention and time and taking care of myself. So it's been really amazing, and um, I feel really happy and excited to see her when she comes home at Thanksgiving. But I can honestly say I feel happy, and I did not expect that.
So it was fun to watch the pictures that you took and that you shared on Instagram while you were on this journey. And you and I don't talk on camera a lot about some of these things, but I'm wondering, like, how much of this is your faith? Like, you trust in God that you're where you need to be. She's where she needs to be now. And you've turned that over and now you're going to refocus. I mean, I feel like that's a really powerful thing right there. Like, we can coach our way through some of this, but there are these moments of just pure faith that things will work out the way that they're supposed to, because we know we can't control them.
Yeah. I think that, Marcy, that is at the heart of it for me. Like, I think that you're right. We don't talk about this a lot on camera. I don't talk about it a lot on my podcast or in a business environment or when I'm coaching. Um, but I would say for me, the root of the peacefulness that I feel is my faith. Like, it's been this tremendous exercise in real faith and real trust. And do I actually believe that she is going to be taken care of and that I can release it and let it go? And in the past, I would say my nature, just by my nature, is to want to hang on tightly to things and sort of like, yes, my faith is there, but I also want to like guide and shape and make sure that things sort of go the way I want them to go. And over the last several months, just in everything that is going on in our world, and really sitting back and going, okay, I don't have control. I can choose how I feel and how I act, and that is about it. And so I really started to lean into my faith, and I do feel like that is the difference between where I am today and where I would have been maybe if she would have left a year ago. Right. I think it could have been a very different story, but I definitely agree with you. I think that is at the heart of it, because I think it gives a hopefulness to me.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, there is hope, and I don't have to work so hard to try to control everything, which is really false anyways. I don't have control over wildfires or her whole university or the pandemic or the government or anything else. And so being really intentional about choosing what I was going to focus on during this time has made a huge difference for me, because I do feel a switch in my brain and even in my body. And I think that it allowed me to enjoy the experience of taking her to school and enjoy the experience of watching her. She rushed, and so she just finished rush last night. And I remember a year ago watching some dear girlfriends go through this with their older daughters, and the anxiety and stress of that process. I mean, it really is torture. I was in a sorority, so I understand it a little bit, but like having a daughter, I'm like, it is torture. That is a torturous process, right? And so part of me was like, oh, I don't really want her to go through that. I want to like keep her protected, and she doesn't need to be in a sorority or put herself out there like that, but she chose to. And we didn't know if it was going to work out. For a lot of girls, it didn't. And she called me last night to let me know that she, is in a sorority now, and she was really excited. But, she taught me so much, because through the whole process, I didn't have anxiety for her. And I have realized I don't need to carry it for her. It's not helpful if I have anxiety for her. She's dealing with her own feelings and thoughts about it. And she was very calm and reasonable about it. And so I didn't need to carry it for her.
That is such great self-awareness about not needing to carry it for her.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that we can all learn a lesson from, because especially as parents, like, you just want to carry things, but you can't control them and you can't change them, and they'll happen however they're supposed to.
Mhm.
And I wonder how much just this year of 2020 has taught us those lessons about the things that we can't control, that
Mhm.
we thought that we could, and being able to find peace in understanding that we can't control and that we do the best with whatever we're given. Much like you said, like, you've let your daughter go, and she'll be fine, and now it's time for you to focus on your son.
Mhm.
That's such a beautiful attitude, because I know you had a lot of anxiety about her going, and that uncertainty of, was she going to go live on campus? Was she not? What was going to happen?
Mhm.
And every day things seem to be changing still about the pandemic. And then, of course, throw in the fires that you had to deal with too.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so true. And I think that really, it's so interesting because even last time we talked about how I went through it, like this period of time where I was so exhausted. And I look back and I think, oh, the exhaustion that I was feeling was actually the anxiety that I was carrying for her, and feeling sort of upset about the unknown. And it's interesting because we found out she was able to go to school, I was thinking about how I have had a lot of people around me that kept saying oh, this is so upsetting, like this is just not going to be a normal college experience, and these poor kids, and they're not going to know what it's like, to have this amazing college experience with all this interaction. And I even had some people very strongly say, they ended up putting the kids in dorm rooms by themselves. And so, because of COVID, so no roommate. And I had people say to me, you shouldn't send her. That's going to be so isolating for her. You should just keep her at home, really worried about mental health and the isolation that she was going to feel. So I had all of those emotions and things floating around in my head. And it's interesting because ultimately we let her decide. And she decided she wanted to be on campus. And I started thinking about it after. Again, it hits you in reflection. But what I thought is, all of this energy around these poor kids, which is true. I feel that their experience is not a normal experience. But all of that energy and time and emotion around it, this is the truth. They have nothing to compare it to. She doesn't know if it's normal or not because she's never experienced it before. And all I can tell you is whatever her normal is right now, she's having a great time. And that was part of like the switch for me of letting it go, was like all of that energy saying this isn't fair, it's not fair to these kids and these poor kids. And from our perspective, that might be true. From her perspective, she has nothing to compare it to. She's having a great time. She's away from home. She's, experiencing some independence. She is making some friends. It's a totally different way, but she's happy, right? And so I think about, like, I could have grabbed onto her and said, you're going to stay home because it's all online school. So you're going to stay home. This is a better situation for you. But that would have been, I think, maybe more about me than about her.
I think that's absolutely right. Like, listening to you talk, it's about everybody putting their own personal experience and saying it's not fair. What is fair anyway? Like, these kids are out having a brand new experience. Who is not to say that their experience isn't better than some of our experiences?
Yes.
Like, maybe it's better to leave home and be in a dorm room by yourself before you're immersed with thousands of people. Like,
Right.
who are we to judge what is better or worse? It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for the work that you and I both do, and we talk about, diversity and equity, and this is ultimate diversity. Like it's a different experience. It's not right or wrong or bad or good. It's just different. And as long as we recognize that it's different, and then we hear like, what does she get out of it? What does she think about it? Um, and then the next generation, she might have that same thing. Like, what if we go back to how it was? It should be like, oh, that's so unfair. Like my experience was amazing.
Yeah. And she's like, why do I have to be with all these people? Why can't I have a dorm room by myself?
Right.
It's like so much of what you and I talk about. It's all perspective. And I think for me, the journey, I have always known this and coached on this, but like really being pushed in this moment to live according to like, I have a choice about how I experience something, right? And the labels that I put on it and the energy that I carry and how much or how little I enjoy it, even in the midst of difference or hardship. And so I think I feel like this time has been a time of tremendous growth for a lot of people. For me, it's been tremendous growth, even as a coach, as an HR professional. Um, I'm sure you feel that way too. It's like it's that realization, that very humble realization that you are never done learning, and that there's always more discomfort and growth and pushing, and it's all about how we choose to show up in it.
Yes. Here, here. It is 100% about how we choose to show up. And that's what makes all of the difference about not only our own experience, but the experience of everyone around us.
Yeah. And I also think the last thing I want to say on this is just going back to what I was saying about switching that mindset to look what we did. Like, I'm proud. We did it, like all the angst of wanting to do everything right. I mean, everybody wants to be a great parent, and none of us have ever done it before. And so you don't really know what you're doing. And I was thinking about how, I talk a lot about imperfection. And so I was just thinking about how that is such a big shift also, right? Because my parenting was not perfect. And even in the midst of imperfection and mistakes, but earnest love and trying really hard, she is great. Like, she is like a 19-year-old wonderful human being who's going to find her way, also imperfectly, right? But like, I think sometimes we tend to just lock on to what we did wrong or what we could have done better, or we don't even reflect on it. It's like we don't celebrate anything, we just move on to the next thing. And so just pausing and being like, I'm proud, like we did it, and we made mistakes and we muddled our way through, but we did it, you know and so just taking a moment also really helped me. And I think that applies to everything in life, right? Like being willing to, instead of locking on to maybe what you could have done better, um, or just moving on to the next challenge, just pausing and going, but wait a second, like after all that, I did it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And you do have a lot to celebrate.
Yeah, it's like great, she's there. And I'm sure it's going to be, tumultuous and all sorts of things are going to happen, but she is going to figure it out. And I'm choosing to allow her to figure it out and always be there if she needs me.
I'm excited to hear her stories, like if she comes home for Thanksgiving, like what is the experience like for her?
I know. Maybe I'll be able to talk her into joining us one morning. That would be really fun.
That's what I was thinking. That would be really fun, just to talk through some of this and hear.
Yeah.
And I think her sharing her experience too might help others that are fearful about letting their kids go off to college right now.
Yes, I totally agree with you, because you feel it as a parent, and I've learned so much, and it just is I think it is helpful, right? And I'm just finding myself being able to just sit in moments, even like, she called me and we were just laughing, talking about coffee. She loves coffee. I love coffee. And she said, oh, yeah, well, the kitchen's not open because of COVID. So I haven't done my dishes. And so my coffee cup got moldy. And so now I'm just drinking cold brew out of the bottle in the mornings. And I started laughing because I'm like, part of me is like, what? You've got to do dishes and you can do them in the bathroom. And I'm like, no, this is her. Like, if she's 19, if she wants to drink cold brew straight out of the bottle in the mornings, and that is what is bringing her joy, eventually she will do a dish, right? Like, eventually she will. And that is like inconsequential to me. It's like, great. I don't want her drinking my cold brew out of the bottle, but like, if she wants to do that, it's okay. She'll do a dish eventually.
So this could go, you and I could talk about this for such a
Oh
long
my
time.
gosh.
I have so many stories about when my boys were in college and walking into their apartments when they weren't expecting me to be there. And that whole thing about what do you decide to make, and being able to walk away and come home and go, wow, like I cannot live that way. But that's their choice, and to not judge them and to just know they're happy, they're healthy, they'll figure it out. But yeah, the stories I could tell about that, especially with boys.
I love it. Well, we could go on and keep talking about how to release that. I think that those little tidbits I think are really helpful. But I know there's also something else that we need to talk about, and I'm really excited about the conversation. It's more in the vein of leadership and coaching and resilience, I think. And so let's take a quick break because I think coming back to that subject, I really think people are going to get a lot out of it.
All right. Well, thanks for talking about the college experience. This
I
was a
loved it.
great
Yeah,
conversation.
it was great.